Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 13th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You see British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. You can see the next system burrowing into western British Columbia. Clouds are quickly approaching the coastline here, and we're going to be dealing with some systems as we go on in through the mid-portion of next week. Then we'll take a look at the extended forecast. As always, some interesting developments in the model. Stick with me towards the end of the video for that. So let's dive into things. You can see where we are right now, visible satellite imagery. And what I want to point out is that we're dealing with much less smoke from some of the fires across Oregon and Idaho. We did a pretty good number on that with some of the last systems we got, and we're going to bring additional precipitation here across the region. So it's going to be very beneficial to places that are with drought and still some fires smoldering out there. So we'll take a look at that here in a moment. Looking at SeaTac, 68 degrees yesterday, 73 is the average high for this time of year. No precipitation officially yesterday. We averaged about 1.61 for the month of September, and we have more coming up. And if you take a look at the yearly chart, of course, you go from January to the summertime here. You can see our warmest temperatures, obviously, in the summer. But then you see we're on the downward trend, the fall transition coming up here. And you can see the precipitation really starting to pick up as we go through October, November, and December, and really peaking in November there, but continuing on, of course, into January and February as well. And yeah, so we are on that cool down here. Fall transition is underway, but we have something interesting showing up for the end of September that may throw a little monkey wrench in that as well. So looking at day two, just a little clip of northeast Washington, Idaho, and northwest Montana for thunderstorm activity. And then the upper level low is going to be around and moving back up across eastern Oregon, Idaho, and potentially southwest Montana. And that could have thunderstorm potential with it as well. And also some pretty beneficial precipitation with it. And you can see this Monday through Wednesday. This is western Montana here. There's the Idaho Panhandle, and you see some of the fire perimeters getting some very nice precipitation amounts. And these have been huge smoke producers. So this is going to be extremely great. This might just put an end to our fire season, as we go on into the fall months here. This is very good news. If you look at the weekend outlook for Spokane, you can see a little bit of a chance for a thunderstorm there over the northern mountains and the Sunday forecast as well. Now, taking a wider look at things here, this is Alaska right there. You can see Washington, and this is the purple octopus that I've been showing at times. A lot of times I've been focusing over the northern hemisphere, but I've zoomed into North America. So let's put this into motion. And here goes the system for today and tonight. Moving in here, we can kind of see this troughing opening up over the Pacific Northwest as we go through the weekend down the West Coast, and then we get this secondary reinforcing shot as we go on in through the mid portion of next week. We'll bring more precipitation with it. But then look what happens as we go off into the extended forecast. We start to build this ridge here as we go in towards the later portions of September as well. This system doesn't make much headway down towards British Columbia. Very weak decaying frontal system there. Big ridge that builds again on the backside of that. So some interesting stuff. We may not be done with some warmth here as we go through the end of September, and I'll show you the European on that here in a moment. But this is what we normally look at. There's Africa over here. You can see Europe. You can see Alaska is right here. The Hawaiian Islands are down here. Japan is way over here. And if I just put this into motion, it just kind of shows you these polar lobes bouncing and dancing around across the northern hemisphere, and you can see where this temperature gradient meets is where we develop these mid-latitude cyclones, which tend to bring the stormier weather for the Pacific Northwest as we go into the fall and the winter months. So taking a look at 24-hour running total precipitation amounts, this is Friday night. You can see the precipitation starting to move into the area. I click forward on in towards Saturday afternoon. Here we go on in through Sunday afternoon, and you can see we're going to be dealing with these rounds of precipitation across the region. And look as we go on in through Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday for portions of Idaho, Montana, then western Washington, Oregon, western BC get another nice shot of rainfall here as well. So this is going to be very beneficial, and hopefully we can just put an end to these fires. Likely some of them will still be smoldering, but this is definitely good news on as far as putting those out. Now looking at the European on the left versus the GFS on the right, what kind of model agreement do we have? Well, let's put it into motion and see. And as we scroll through here, you can see the European a little more aggressive with that system that starts to go through later in the weekend and on in through Monday. But you see the GFS catches up and does bring some beneficial precipitation. Pretty good model agreement, really. If you look at the heaviest locations of precipitation, including western Washington, Oregon, the Cascades getting in some of that action. And of course, the Columbia Basin largely getting skunked there as well. Pretty typical. Now, if we look at smoke, vertically integrated smoke on the high resolution rapid refresh, this goes out 48 hours and updates every hour. And then if we put this into motion, you can see that smoke still out and about a little bit, not nearly what we were having but you can see a little bit of activity still ongoing, although it looks like the Idaho fires are relatively tamed at this point, and that additional precip is just going to be very beneficial to putting out any remnant fires out there. So looking at the GFS, this is for Seattle. You can see these systems moving through and keeping things a bit below average, or at least seasonable temperatures here. But then look at that, with the ridging perhaps developing through the extended forecast, we could be warming up. This is pretty warm for this time of year here, so we're going to be watching that closely. If you've been watching the channel, I've been talking about it for a few days now, and we're going to continue to watch that because it's starting to look a little bit more likely. This is the GFS for Portland. Look at this, maybe some mid-80s returning as we go on into the following weekend, September 21st. That's a Saturday. That would make for a fairly nice weekend. And if we look at the National Blend of models, this is over the next few days. This is today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Of course, the systems are going to be with us during this time frame here, so no big warm-up coming in the meantime. And then we start to go to the very end, and you see a little bit of a warm-up starting to show up here, but this will probably be changing if the GFS and the European continue to show some of this ridging. Now, looking at 2-meter temperature anomaly, this is last night's European artificial intelligence model that goes out 15 days. So we're going to scroll through here, and you can imagine below normal temperatures as we go on into the mid-portion of next week. And then we scroll off into the future a bit more, and we start to take a look at that potential ridging here, and you can see this pretty dramatic warm-up here for much of the Pacific Northwest. So we'll be watching that one closely. It's a little ways out there. It's still a fantasy forecast right now. We're looking pretty far out in the crystal ball. Here's the 6 to 10 day, and of course with the systems around above average makes sense, below normal for much of the west. And the 8 to 14 day, this might start changing here. This was updated yesterday, and this is probably going to start changing a little bit. They're probably going to start introducing above, if I had my guess. Yeah, because we're starting to look way out into the end of the month there, and 8 to 14 day, take that with a grain of salt. And if you missed this one, we did back down on some of that extreme drought across eastern Washington, and you can see we did extend a little bit of that to moderate drought across portions of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon as well. But other than that, not too big of changes. But you can see that we are going to be bringing some beneficial precipitation to these regions, so it'll also be helping to bust some of the drought in some of these areas here. So nice to see. But yeah, anyway, what else? I guess we will update everything tomorrow. We'll start to look at some of the high resolution models. They'll start to come in range a bit more, and we'll break everything down again. We'll take a look at the troughing. We'll take a look at that ridge potential on through the end of September. Otherwise, I hope you guys are liking these videos. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.